I'm going to be releasing through Pulpit and Pen. I'm not going to be the one writing it, but that's Diane Gaskins. We're going to explain that Rosaria's position is not really any different than Sam Alberry's, right? She's just less flamboyant, a queer. He and his position is almost indistinguishable from Rosaria's. So these guys who don't read her material in a more depth way need to pay closer attention, all right? And just read her before they start using her as an ex-gay mascot. Because you put somebody on a pedestal, they're bound to get kicked off. So anyways, I'm going to tell this story on the podcast. I told it on the website earlier today, and a lot of people don't know this. But anyways, I was at the G3 conference a few years ago, 2017, in January, with Tim Hurd and Len Pettis, and hosting a booth there. We shared a booth with the Bible Thumping Wingnut. Out of nowhere comes Roseria Butterfield, out of the crowd. And she looked at me and she said, "Why are you here? Why did they let you in?" I have no idea who she is. So I'm like, well, I should say it didn't surprise me, because I have some people who don't like me much. That may surprise you, but I just thought she was a random Pulpit and Pen hater, and I just said very politely, "Well, I'm here for the conference. Why are you here?" And she said, "Well, I'm a speaker, and I want to know why they let you in. Why are you here?" And she was so demanding and unpleasant to me that this small crowd, actually, like from people around, began to develop. Like, they began to stand around listening because of the tone of her voice and how caustic it was. And one of the stander-bys was proactive enough, she was forward-thinking enough to get a photo of Butterfield's inappropriate and angry aggressiveness on her phone. And so Rosaria asked, "Why are you always attacking my good friend, Karen Swallow Pryor? She's my good friend. Why are you attacking her? She's solid." And so I answered her question. Here are all the problems with Pryor. She stormed off with her husband behind her. He looked like a wounded puppy dog. He might as well have been on an invisible leash. Like, he put his chin down to his chest, shuffled his feet when he walked, and she just drug him everywhere. If you know Rosaria, you know that's how it works. She wears the pants, her husband is submissive to him. And sure enough, she went straight to Josh Bice. Josh Bice came and said, "You need to leave G3, you need to leave the conference." And I said, "Why?" I already knew why. And it was Rosaria said that you came up to her, that you accosted her, and you attacked both she and her friend, Karen. And I'm like, she was with a dude. She wasn't with a woman. Was there a woman? I was asking people, did you see Karen Swallow Pryor? I didn't see Karen Swallow Pryor. I thought maybe Karen was listening in somewhere and I just didn't see her. Turns out Bice either misunderstood Rosaria, or Rosaria literally said, "He attacked me and my friend." So I say, you need to go and ask these people. I say, go ask Mrs. Johnson, that's Phil's wife. Go ask Cameron Butel and Fred Butler at Grace to You, and ask Tim Hurd, who stood there at the booth hearing the whole thing. My elder was nearby. I'm like, ask these people. I did not go up to her. I did not accost her. I did not attack her. I did not touch her. She came up to me, and the first word out of her mouth was, "Why did they let you in here?" Now, that was 2017. By 2019, can we agree that I was right on Karen Swallow Pryor? Can we finally agree? Can anyone with a brain, I think most of us can now agree that Karen Swallow was Pryor, or rather, I was right about Karen Swallow Pryor. Tom Buck at first thought I wasn't right. Okay. Since then, he publicly called for Karen Swallow Pryor's resignation from the ERLC, and he published that letter on Josh Bice's blog. So, you're welcome. I was right. And so, Bice finds this out. He comes back and he says, "You don't have to leave. You can stay." And I post these screenshots of messages between Bice and I in which he says, "Sorry we had that little snag. I do not believe that you were in error. I have no knowledge of the backstory of the person in question. He's referring to Karen Swallow Prior. But I believe you handled yourself with respect from what I gather. Thanks for coming. He says, oh, by the way, then she went on to her G3 talk and talked about a huckster set up in the exhibition hall who hates female writers. By the way, of all of the various reasons I gave her for why I quote unquote attack Karen Swallow Prior, not a single one of them, not one, is because she's a female writer. I have female writers on my blog. It was, all the stuff that you hear me talk about all the time, not the female writer part. She inserted that because she's a militant feminist. And then again, Bice mentioned my restraint. Oh, well, I should say, Bice said that he would, quote, will not post her talk online until that part is edited out. And again, Bice says, thank you for exercising restraint and maturity, speaking to me. And I've mentioned this privately since 2017. It's the first time publicly I'm saying that. And I'm just saying what happened. This woman, this militant, feminist, frankly, butch woman, came up to me dragging her husband like a puppy behind her, lied. She attacked me. Attacked, I use the term metaphorically. She ripped me a new one while I was polite. She caused a scene. Then she went and lied and said I attacked her. And then she actually got lectured about her behavior and I didn't. All right? That's 2017. Here's why I'm bringing it up now. Do you know what the Overton window is? The Overton window is this philosophical concept that, according to Overton, the one who named it, Joseph Overton, he said that an idea's viability depends on whether or not it falls within this range of a window. So think of, on a scale from 1 to 10, right now, 2019, what is considered liberal? What's the 10 on that scale? And then going to the left, like a negative 10. And then 0 right in the middle, and positive 10 on the right side. So then think of what is the most conservative that is considered reasonable today. And that's the window. Okay, so there's a spread of 20 points, and we're at 0. 0 is the middle, and we'll call that moderate. If you're moderate, you're in the middle, all right? That Overton window has shifted back and forth so dramatically that now we consider people who believe in government wealth redistribution programs to be centrists. Whereas before, we would have considered them to have been hardcore leftists, like a 7 or an 8 on that scale, just a few decades ago, at least during Reagan's era. And a communist or someone calling themselves a socialist would not have been in the window at all. The thought of a socialist being out there in American politics would have been outside the window. It would have been considered just absurd, beyond the pale. All right? And now we have Andrea Ocasio-Cortez and we have Bernie Sanders who are like, yeah, we're socialists. What of it? We're socialists. What does it matter? All right, well, what's happened? Well, the Overton window has moved. All right, it's moved to the left. And now what is considered within the scope of acceptable ideas has actually shifted further to the left. And now those people who we would consider to be strong conservative, fiscal conservatives in 1988 are now considered fringe elements, and they're outside the Overton window. All right, you with me in terms of what the Overton window is? Think about this for a moment. Did you ever think there'd be a day in the PCA, the Presbyterian Church of America, not the PCUSA, the PCA, that there would be something like the Revoice Conference? Where there are, like, a church refuses to let in straight people, and then all these guys with Grindr apps walk into the church without supervision of heterosexuals, talk about celebrating their queer culture, and then go out and party afterwards and rub it in the face of all the straight folks and talk about celebrating, quote, queer culture. That would have been so far outside the window, but now it's in the window. We've shifted to the point that the Southern Baptist president is saying that we need to use preferred gender pronouns. You see what I'm saying? It's shifted to the left. What I think is Revoice is a spoiler. What Revoice is, it's not really designed to take over our view. Something like Revoice is only designed to shift the Overton window, to move it to the left, to make someone like Roseria Butterfield seem as though she's in the middle. She might be today, but she's only in the middle because the window itself has shifted. Do you get what I'm saying? She's a ringer. The others are spoilers. Like the gay guys with the feather boas and the pink hair at Revoice, the goal is to shift the window so a leftist like Rosaria Butterfield, who is a militant butch woman who is in control of her husband, so that she looks to be centrist, when in fact what we're going to reveal to you in coming weeks is that she actually has a view more similar to Sam Alberry's, who is an extreme radical. But even he looks to be more in the center because of the Overton window shift. In the meantime, those of us who are still biblical conservatives on the issue of human sexuality, holding to the exact same position that we did 5 years ago, now we're outside the window altogether, considered extreme. I hope you understand what's happening. Just have your eye out on Rosaria Butterfield. We'll be right back in just a moment.
The Black Robe Regiment was a nickname for American clergy during the Revolution. They were described as mighty men of iron nerve and strong hand and balanced cheek and heart of flame. Men not clothed in soft raiment, but heroes of hardihood and lofty courage. That spirit of the Black Robe Regiment lives on today with Black Robe Rifles, your premier firearms and accessories company. Order your favorite hunting, sporting, or self-defense products online today at blackrobерifles.com. Order from all the major brands and competitive prices. A portion of all sales goes to international evangelical missions organizations, and your purchase can make a difference. Be prepared. Order from blackrobерifles.com.
All right, so let's get to some sincere questions, which I left on the Patreon portion of the podcast last time, but I'll put it on the free version this time. Sincere questions and biblical answers where I read emails from listeners. How about this one? We'll start off with a doozy. This one is from the office of Dr. Patterson. Thank you, Jordan. Your publication is accurate. Thanks for speaking out. With Job, I must say, my judge is in heaven. Until he comes, Paige Patterson. Now, I never thought I'd live to see that day, that he and I can have agreement on something. Because, well, I should say other than scriptural inerrancy, I suppose. Not a Calvinist. He was a supporter of Jurgen Cantor. You know, it's a strange world that we live in. Now, even Timothy Rogers, with a D, that's how you spell it. Timothy Rogers is in agreement with us. I mean, we live in strange times. And Dr. Patterson is being railroaded. Even like they have no reason to take out Dr. Patterson. He's already out. But they're continuing to tarnish his reputation with what is essentially garbage, nonsense accusations. These are Brett Kavanaugh level, Roy Moore level, fake nonsense accusations, making mountains out of molehills. Why are they continuing to attack Dr. Patterson? Well, Wade Burleson wrote an article that I wouldn't probably have noticed had he not linked Pulpit and Pen. Thank you for the link, Wade. If you talk to Wade, I think he's a nice guy. Again, tell him I lost his number if you talk to him. Nice guy. But I thought that he explained well why he and so many others are attacking Dr. Patterson over this quote, racism scandal, because he was concerned that Fred Luter might be inclined to nominate people because of the color of their skin rather than the content of their character, which, by the way, is exactly what H.B. Charles did with the 2018 Pastors Conference. It was a train wreck because he wanted to have preach a majority non-Anglo speaking roster, and he invited Tony Evans and other heretics to come preach. because of the color of their skin. So this type of thing has happened before. But in the letter, Paige Patterson said that he was happy that the SBC elected their first black president. He was happy that it was Fred Luter. But the letter says he sent a letter of concern. That letter said he had sent a letter of concern to Fred Luter, reminding him how important it was to nominate people to positions because they hold the biblical inerrancy, because they hold to our biblical values, and that he hopes that he stuck with that and wasn't going to make appointments solely based on race. And as Patterson expressed in the letter, that he hoped that Fred Luter wouldn't make nominations based on race, you could hear the collective gasp of the woke, politically correct social justice warriors in the SBC. He hopes that Fred Luter won't make appointments because of people's skin color. Well, that's a rational fear, considering there are white dudes in the SBC who are nominating people because of their skin color. I mean, mercy sakes. Or, that there was an indication in the letter that maybe Patterson was concerned that not everybody who was an African American was also aligned with the Baptist faith and message and holding to scriptural inerrancy. Well, no kidding, most don't. Have you met Dwight McKissick? He's the most vocal black man in the Southern Baptist Convention. He's Pentecostal, charismatic. He's egalitarian. He violates the SBFNM on I don't know how many points, and I have no idea why he's in the Southern Baptist Convention other than to be a race baiter. So it doesn't help that the most vocal black people in the Southern Baptist Convention, I think that would be Dwight McKissick for the most part, is an outright heretic. And H.B. Charles is borderline. And he didn't he invited full-blown heretics like Tony Evans, who's an open theist and an inclusivist and a Pelagian, to come preach to Southern Baptists because of the color of his skin. But why are they attacking Patterson? This is an old letter from what, 15 years ago? Not 15 years ago. Was it 6 years ago, 8 years ago, however long? It was 2012, 7 years ago. Why are they still attacking Patterson? I've said for a long time, it's not because they want to attack Patterson so much as they want to discredit the entire conservative resurgence. They want to hit reset on the resurgence and go back to 1979 and have a redo on the entire conservative resurgence. That's what they want. Wade Burleson writes this. He says, actually, I'm going to start one line sooner so I can talk about this one line. But he says, fundamentalist beliefs that men are inherently in authority over women, full stop, that's what the scripture says. Not all men in authority over all women, but pastors in authority over both men and women who are not pastors, and husbands over wives. By the way, also parents over children. Same passage says both. And children, fundamentalist beliefs that men are inherently in authority over women and children give the SBC, why wouldn't men be in authority over children? What's wrong with you? This gave the SBC the child abuse scandal. Let me stop here and say, Wade, that's despicable. I mean, I like you as a person, but you cannot demonstrate statistically, demographically, empirically, that the quote-unquote child abuse scandal, which does not compare to most other denominations, even those that are way more liberal and egalitarian, way more. You could not demonstrate that complementarianism, or even patriarchy for that matter, leads to a higher level of abuse. You just can't do it. It's kind of gross that you would use abuse victims as a political weapon against denominational opponents. But that is what liberals do. They use and abuse victims. They employ a strategy of fourth wave feminism to make every woman into a victim. And they use them to gain political power. By the way, do you know what the waves of feminism are? So the first wave of feminism basically says men and women are politically the same, and women should have suffrage. They should be able to vote. Most people wouldn't quibble at that today. There's second wave feminism, which says men and women are actually socially the same too. So we have the same social responsibilities. So anything a man can do, a woman can do. All right, so that's what Wade Burleson is. He's essentially a second wave feminist. Third wave feminism says women are actually better than men. They're actually superior. Not only are they equal, they're superior to men. Girl power! All right, so it's from the 90s. Girl power, that started in about 1991. So first wave feminism was about 1840. Second wave feminism was about 1950 to 1950. Third wave feminism, 1991. And fourth wave feminism, actually, although they wouldn't say it, it views women as inferior and overly fragile and always victimized, right? So every woman is victimized all the time. She's super fragile, right? It's kind of a reversal. It's a course correction that I think actually doesn't empower women enough. Let me put it this way. It doesn't foster the perception of the imago Dei in women as much as it should, because it just sees women as useful political tools, and they receive status by victimhood. So whereas previous waves of feminism, like say the second wave, was I am woman, hear me roar. Now it's I'm woman, hear me be oppressed. I'm so oppressed and men scare me all the time. That's fourth wave feminism.